Quite some time back, more than a year back, the pandemic had just started, and we at Notebook felt it was our duty to create a platform where educators could share their thoughts and iron out problems that they were facing with the new normal that was slowly emerging in our school system. Little did we know that more than a year later, I would be welcoming all of you to our 108th episode. During this time, we have discussed a myriad range of topics. We have discussed very curricular topics, the NEP, the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 formula. We have discussed co-curricular topics like the house system, sports and games, fitness, holistic development of children, and we've even discussed very sensitive topics like mental health. Today, we look at something that perhaps every high schooler, at least once, aspires to become: a school office bearer, the badge of that head boy or the head girl, a school captain or a house prefect. In fact, if you asked me today, I could not name more than 5 people in the batches in school that were 2 years or more older than I am. However, if you ask me to name the head boys and the head girls, I would perhaps be able to do so going back 10 years. That was the importance of these offices while you are in school. However, years later, as these people grow up, within friend circles, those badges become something of an inside joke. Today, we look at the deeper meaning of the school offices and what it takes for students to aspire to these posts and what it means for students who bear these badges perhaps for a lifetime. To discuss this topic, our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as a senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shabayu, for that introduction. I hope I'm clear because y'all are very muted and muffled to me. Is that okay, Shabayu?
Yes, sir. We can see and hear you fine.
Yeah. So I think that it's a wonderful topic. I think the task of school is also, apart from studying and teaching, it is also to produce the leaders for tomorrow. And I think teaching leadership through making students responsible, and this is what students aspire to, I think is very important. I must say that whatever I learned about student leadership, I learned at Doon School. And I'm very happy to note that the current Oxford Student Union leader is an ex-Doon School boy. He was a great debater. So at Doon, I think it was drilled into everyone's head. Our school was set up in 1935, pre-independent India. And everybody who joined school it's been drilled into his head that we have to produce leaders for a free and democratic India. This was fine in 35, but even today, that USP continues and our boys aspire to be leaders. The problem is that everybody in school cannot become a prefect or a monitor or a house captain. And this is another very important learning, that not everyone can be a leader. And so what happens is that being a leader is something that everyone aspires to. It's very good for a boy's CV. And office bearers are boys, and I'll say boys and girls, with special skills and talents, and who have over the years shown an exemplary record of discipline and are role models to the others. And therefore, they are selected for this role for a year. However, having said that, sometimes one sees a naughty boy, or really somebody with a dubious track record, being selected to run a house. So whenever I asked the housemaster why they selected that person, they said, he knows the ins and outs of all the naughty happenings in the house, and he's like a poacher turned gamekeeper. That's the syndrome. So he was a naughty guy, but he's turned good. Also, sometimes when you give somebody with a dubious track record a responsibility, he rises to the occasion and then turns his life around. So there are different views that housemasters have. But in my house, I always appointed somebody who had a very impeccable track record. How are they selected? School leaders are selected in different ways in different schools. We had the housemasters would select their captains and prefects, but the school captain was always nominated by the council of teachers and housemasters, and then the boys elected them. There was a voting system, actual ballots, canvassing was not allowed, and they dropped their ballots, and then there was a counting in camera, and there was a special assembly where these boys were, very ceremoniously, paraded on, and there was a very formal ceremony where the going out batch handed their pa down to the new people. And this is very important because when you appoint prefects or monitors, there has to be a sort of pomp and show about it. Everyone must know that these boys are the important chaps. And so they like this, and they must get real power. There's no point giving them power that, you take away or you're breathing over their shoulders. When you give a boy or a girl power to run something, they must be given real power. The main purpose of selecting these students, apart from the fact that they are excellent leaders, is also because you cannot run a school with only staff. You need the help and assistance of these boys. And we had a ratio of 1:7, 1:9. We had a lot of staff for very few boys. But in schools where there are 2,000, 3,000 students, staff cannot do all the looking after. And therefore you need and to incorporate the help of students. They help in many ways. They see to the day-to-day functioning. They oversee assembly, meal times, duties, discipline. They also do, they can punish to some extent. They have a certain punishment chart. They can give out cards. They check uniforms, latecomers. They watch over bullying. Many of them actually have the power to weed out some of the problems of school, the drug abuse, the fighting, the gang fights. So these prefects do have the power and influence to actually bring about a change in school. I think in residential schools where life starts at 6 in the morning with PT and it ends late into the night, the role of a school leader is far more than the role of a school leader in a day school. Now, when prefects were selected in our school, they were only from class 12. They were given a special workshop off campus by professional companies that ran leadership programs. And so they were given a 3-day workshop. They had a 3-day follow-up workshop the following term. And during the course of the year, they would have regular meetings with the headmaster, myself. They had a headmaster's breakfast once a fortnight where we discussed the issues of the school. Many of these school leaders were also part of the school council, which was the highest decision-making body in school. And they learned a lot of skills about how to present their point, how to, canvass, how to, build public opinion. There's so many skills that these kids learned. Now, they even learned how to handle homesickness. They learned to handle with empathy boys who had a problem. They also learned that privilege and power comes with responsibility and empathy, and that breaking with evil tradition isn't easy, but it's imperative. They learn how to be alone because sometimes people in positions of power have no friends. And so they had to put up with all these things, and it's a great learning for them in the future. In the Doon school, we used to have house feasts, and these were done once or twice a term. And the house feast was just not about eating. It was about selecting the menu. It was about printing cards, inviting guests. It was about laying the tables, have a certain theme, putting on some entertainment for the guests. It was eating last, because I think leadership is all about serving others and putting yourself last. So a lot of things were learned just by inviting other teachers and guests to a house feast. prefects were particularly important at school functions like Founders Day, or whenever there was an open day when people from the town and a lot of well-wishers and friends of Doon used to come over because these were the people who kept order. They were the first point of contact. They were always smartly dressed. Now, being in charge of school discipline, prefects are given certain powers over the rest of the school. Well, they had different ties, they had different blazers. You have these sort of colors and badges which separate them from the rest. And I think that causes the biggest problem, because having been with their peers for 6 to 7 years, suddenly to be catapulted into a position of power over the rest causes issues of loyalties. The prefect doesn't know which side he's on sometimes. In my experience, the first term, the spring term, was when they really did a good job. They used to be more on the side of the faculty and less on the side of the boys. But as it came nearer to the time when they were going to leave school, I found that they trended to move more towards the boys. They got a bit slack, they got a bit lazy, and they had to be pulled up. So it's a very difficult position because they got one foot with the boys and the teachers, and the other foot with the teachers and the headmasters. And of course, they also faced punishments. They were debagged. They were asked to step down for a week if they did something wrong. So while school rules applied to them as anyone else, they also had certain privileges. For example, they got their own room. They got special meals sometimes. So they were the sort of elite race amongst the school. Sometimes what happens is that those boys who are not appointed prefects, they begin to form an anti-group. And we used to call it the NAPU, the Non-Appointed Prefects Union. This was the opposition. And the gentleman who never became house captain, who was not voted in, generally became the chief of NAPU. And a good year in school was where the school prefects could handle the NAPU tactfully. If NAPU became strong, we found that the school year was not very smoothly run. So again, tact, diplomacy, skill was all taught. What prefects do very well, I think, when they leave school, having had this experience of leadership, they do very well when they get out of school. What else can I say? In the end, I would like to say that while we make a big thing and a big ceremony of appointing these prefects with ties and all that stuff, I think it's important to play this little game where we give them the power over the rest and see how they use it. Because unless you're given power, you don't know how you're going to use it. And over the year, they learn how to use this power with discretion. Because I think underusing power is as bad as overusing. And we used to have a review halfway through the year to see if any of these gentlemen were not performing. And if they were not performing, we would speak to them. I think that is about all I can say on this issue, Subayu. I will now hand this over to you. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope I was audible because there's a lot of disturbance here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. You're perfectly audible. We could hear and see you perfectly well. I seriously think your router now has a notebook filter in case you can't hear me clearly. But this is for the rest of the people who are on this session right now. If you head on to Wikipedia and you search for the Doon School alumni, you would find a page dedicated to extremely famous and accomplished alumni from that school. Today, when Barrett sir was talking about the NAPU system and the leadership workshops for the school captains, that kind of gives you a sight into why Doon School produces so many leaders from the world over. Sir, thank you so much for sharing that. Our next speaker on today's topic is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubhay, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I welcome all of you again to today's insightful session, which to my mind assumes far greater significance than what it appears at the first glance. More so in a large democracy like ours. We'd all agree that for children, following politics is usually a passive activity. And honestly, they're too young to vote. And it isn't easy for them to actively participate in any kind of political campaign, right? Ultimately, it's a matter of fact that we will never want our children to knock on doors or make calls to strangers and request them to vote. Still, on the other hand, it's really important that we nurture and groom our children to be active participants, to be active future participants in the political process. And undoubtedly, when we discuss about student office bearers, of course, today in this forum, we will try to restrict our discussion mainly to schools. But if we look at it from a larger context, of campuses, not only school, but even higher education, say colleges, universities, etc., we would all agree that education institutes, campuses have always been actively contributing. They've always actively contributed in terms of producing great leaders. And thus, when we discuss about in-house school election, when we discuss about student bodies, there's no doubt about it that it's a very important topic. After all, once they step out of the campus, they are rightfully entitled to vote. Once they turn 18, as we would all agree, considering the fact that they're rightfully entitled to vote, and as we would all agree that each vote is precious, as each vote decides the future of the nation. So it is really important that they get a hands-on exposure with regard to the democratic process, as well as understand the importance and the roles and responsibilities of any elected office. Now, very often, many people label this, offices, label this student body elections, etc., as nothing more than popularity contests. So this is one statement that really makes me upset. And I'll tell you why so. Because it actually diminishes the importance, validity, and also results of any kind of student body election. And also it's used as an excuse for an adult to appoint a student or a committee with whom the adult is more comfortable to work with. And thus the position that should rightfully belong to an elected leader, even if he or she is a student who has a legitimate following, at times is given to someone else. Now, before we discuss ways, in terms of how it should be conducted, etc., and considering the fact that you have a great panel here today, so experienced panel, eminent panel, and I'm sure they'll share their own real life experiences. Barrett also gave some great examples, and what Sir shared with regard to his, illustrious Doon school. Naturally, some great examples, and I'm sure our panelists will also do the same. But I'll try to restrict my deliberation to slightly different perspective. So if we look at the damage caused by the popularity statement, like as I was telling you, if you undermine its importance and call it more like a popularity contest. Now, my question is, has any candidate in any election at any level ever won an open and honest election if he or she is not popular with the electorate? That never happens, right? It's really axiomatic that the winning candidate, again, in an open and honest election, is more popular than the loser. The bottom line is that when the popularity statement is made, it usually means that the wrong candidate, when I say wrong, in the opinion of someone else, not the electorate, won. So thus I believe that student body elections are also equally important. And we would all agree that as adults, we would really scream from rooftops if an outside group decides to appoint someone else to do the job of an elected leader, someone whom we have elected as our representative. So suppose we cast our vote and we elect someone, and any outside body intervenes and tries to impose somebody else, naturally we will not be happy about it, we'll revolt. So likewise, I believe that opinion of students, opinion of children in terms of electing someone whom they look up to, someone who is their own, also matters. And what are the real differences if you look at this school elections vis-a-vis the kind of other elections, be it civic elections, state or national elections? So I think first notable difference is the issue. Naturally, in a school election, students will look forward to someone who will take care of their interests, right? Second is, if you look at the percentage of votes in a national scenario, we are very happy if we see in a given day the voters turnout is 70% or more. It becomes a national news. In most of the student elections, very often the turnout is almost 100%. Third is the fact that it's open to participation, right? Students can come participate. So I believe undoubtedly it provides a great platform for future leaders. And leadership is one of the skills which is really most sought after. And when I say leaders, not only political leaders, but even if you look at things from a broader perspective, be it in the corporate world, be it in any profession, be it thought leaders, intellectuals, social activists. So the society definitely needs leaders. And the whole concept of student body elections provides a great grooming ground for future leaders. Now, undoubtedly, every school has its own structure. And we really look forward to hear from our esteemed panelists also on this. Now, nomenclatures may vary from school to school. Different nomenclatures, head boy, head girl is quite popular. Some schools also very often I've heard presidents, vice presidents. So nomenclatures might vary. But the expectation from roles, and also, not only in the form of head boy, head girl, but maybe for various verticals, representatives who are looking after various areas, etc. But the expectation from these roles are broadly similar. And undoubtedly, students who are elected and students who are, ultimately hold these offices, they act as role models for other students, role models whom the students look up to. And not only in terms of academics, say in terms of behavior, attendance, integrity, values, punctuality, uniform, demonstrating a commitment to the cause of the school, to the values that the school represents, really makes one a suitable candidate. Now, also the responsibilities and tasks, are, I think, considering the age of students, undoubtedly it's huge. It really brings out the best in terms of representing the school in various events, making speeches at times in front of students, teachers, showing visitors around, meeting with school council, reporting and helping issues, resolving issues. Now, as Barrett also mentioned, that not only about reporting, but also being able to resolve issues within the limited ambit, limited power that they're delegated. Also ensuring the student voice is appropriately represented while taking key decisions and developments. Now, attending and again, representing in public functions, speaking to prospective parents, maybe in sessions. So this entire confidence that is needed, the fact that these students really need to be comfortable while talking to strangers. So it's a great platform to develop and nurture organizational and communication skills, and really needs a very mature and thoughtful outlook, I'll say, undoubtedly. And also, I think they're great ambassadors, both internal and external ambassadors for the school. I think another the way I look at it is, so when it comes to developing qualities, also certain other issues, like for instance, being involved in social issues, say charity, fundraising events, mediating in various peer-to-peer conflicts, and qualities like leadership, teamwork, time management, organization skills, and as we discussed, ability to speak confidently, whether it be the students, parents, staff, and also, of course, certain aspects which goes without saying, like politeness or maturity, a clear sense of judgment, responsibility, reliability. So really, it takes a lot, right? And it's an honor that only a few teenagers ever achieve, which can really help in terms of giving them confidence, opening doors. Now, as I was discussing that at times it really gives birth to leaders of the futures and many politicians of today among a band of determined teenagers. So the earning the title of head boy or head girl is often a long cherished ambition, and really tests resilience, enthusiasm, and all-round capabilities of students. And it's not only about academic grades. So it really takes a lot to impress various stakeholders in the entire process. Now, and as I was telling you that often they're like multitaskers. But what we need to keep in mind that these offices are for a leader and not for a messenger. So it's for someone who can really keep school management, of course, informed, ensure good student behavior and cooperation, which is very, very important. And also someone that the students know, that someone who is really a role model from various perspectives. Now, very often, I was reading about it the other day, that is no surprise to learn that ex-British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher once had the title of head girl at Grantham Grammar, where she was a student. Also, Kate Winslet was a head girl at a drama school. So, undoubtedly, it goes on to show that early signs of early leadership traits, etc. And the fact that if given an opportunity, how they are groomed really makes a lot of difference. But very often that success at the ballot box at times is also pretty uncool. It is a victory which at times makes more enemies than friends. Now, also around the world, there's a school of thought in terms of the fact that whether this terminologies like head boy and head girl, so are they realistic in today's age, or do they sound more like a Harry Potter creation? Although schools around the globe have in some form or fashion, maybe the nomenclature varies, but there are rules like this. Now, the reason why this whole debate is on is because the increasing number of young people identifying as non-binary are making the roles difficult to sustain. It's simply unfair that one must fit into a neat binary box to attain your school top accolades. Now, I was reading about some schools who actually scrap the roles. because they felt that the labels implied that gender was why people got the position, when it ought to go to the best person for any job. After all, like, for example, in today's age, we don't use the terms like policeman or actress anymore. Like, actor is a term that we use, irrespective of gender. So is it that switching to terms like school captain or other neutral phase makes more sense? That's just a thought. Now, reams of research show the preference for male candidates in leadership positions. If schools allow students to vote for captains, gender balance may not necessarily be baked into the system. There's a strong possibility, of course there are exceptions, that boys may dominate. Alternatively, if teachers select captains, then at times, again, there are exceptions, higher achievement of girls in terms of academic grade may tilt the scale in their favor. And it doesn't help. Now, both these extreme cases actually doesn't help. So around the world, for instance, in US schools, responsibilities are spread around, like, for instance, sports captain, class president, prom chair, yearbook editor. So it's about like delegating. It's about decentralization. In the UK, people are sniffy about this sort of prizes for everyone approach. But from the vantage point of a non-binary future in which you should value people for what they do rather than for lazy generic labels, it might just be the best approach. Now, I not only think that voting is right that we are given. So when we are discussing about voting, it's not only a right, it's also a responsibility. So we are actually setting the example and vision for the future with the people we are electing. And considering the fact that, as I said earlier, that the future of our democracy will be determined by voting. Now, many of our future initiatives, plan, program, vision, aspiration, they definitely depend on how we cast our ballot. And this is where children actually learn hands-on. Now, again, I think the most important point is twofold. One is installing democratic values, and second is also being able to nurture our children to hold responsible offices, elected offices in future. Because the moment someone holds an elected office, it's not only about politics. There are various other aspects involved, be it in terms of allocating scarce resources between divergent groups. Each group has its own logic, own perception, own arguments. So calls for a lot of maturity. It involves being able to resolve conflicts, demonstrate composure. So a lot of good qualities are needed. And I'm sure that this student office bearers plays a very important role in this. So these were a few things that I wanted to share. I thank all of you for your for giving me a patient hearing. We have a great panel here today, as I said earlier, and I really look forward to their deliberations on this. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for bringing in such a very different perspective to this topic. Ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we have a fantastic panel lined up for you today. Before we go down to the panel, just a bit about Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech organization. We make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. This covers every subject and every topic, right from classes 1 through to class 12. Now, these videos come in handy in two places. One is when you are taking a class and you would like to use a video to introduce the topic to your students in a more visual way. You can play these videos on any class, whether it's online or offline, and use that as an introduction to a particular topic. These videos, just 6 to 10 minutes in length, only occupy a very small part of your total class period. Months later, when the students have to prepare for exams, they have access to the same videos at home, be it a laptop or a smartphone or whatever other connected device that they have access to. Students can use these videos from home. They can therefore use these videos to revise before a particular exam comes up, and also get reminded of what you taught in class that day when this video was shown. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play you a short clip of one of the notebook videos, and then we can move on to the discussion.
Where am I? Who are you?
I am your friend, and we are inside the human body
But why?
to explore and learn. Come, let's see what we have here. At first, we have the organs, which are made up of the tissues, and then the tissues, which are made up of the cells. So, let's start with the cell then. Now, we are inside a cell. Always remember that all living things started out as a single cell. You also started out from here, buddy.
Whoa! What was that? Why is everything shaking?
The cell just divided and formed a new cell. That is how they multiply and grow, you know. The cell is made up of some components. The first is the cell membrane. It allows some substances to go in but keeps the harmful substances at bay.
Wow!
Let's go to the mitochondria now. It provides energy for everything you do throughout the day.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a short clip from one of the notebook videos. If you head on to the website www.notebook.school, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. Well, with that out of the way, it is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panel that we have with us today. We are privileged to have with us Dr. Anuradha Mehta, who holds an MA in Economics, an MA in Education, an MCom, a BCom Honours, and a PhD in Education along with a B.Ed. She has 32 years of experience as TGT, PGT Vice Principal and Principal. She was awarded CBSE Teachers Award 2015 and the Delhi State Teachers Award 2013. Amongst her numerous other awards is the 5th Educational Leaders Summit Leadership Award 2020, the Best Principal Award category by Think Unique, Visionary Education Leader Award by Asia Today. She was recognized as the 50 Fabulous Innovative Leaders by the World Innovation Congress, the Best Woman Principal of the Year Award by CISR Foundation, International Educator Award 2019 by CED Foundation Trust, Leader in Excellent Academic Performance Award 2018-19, and the Guru Dronacharya Award 2018 by SRM University. These are just to name a few, and she has a long list of awards to her name. She has performed various very important duties for the CBSE. She has been an examiner and observer for exams. She has been a member of the CBSE Sports Advisory Committee since 2009, has been a member of the CBSE School Inspection Team since 2010, a Nodal Center Supervisor since 2004, and a Center Superintendent for CBSE as well. Ma'am, we are privileged to have you on the panel today. Thank you so much for making the time. We also have with us Dr. Monica D'Souza, who is the President of the Remedia Educational Trust in Shimoga, Karnataka, Secretary of the Private Schools and Children Welfare Association in Haryana, and the Joint Secretary of Citizens' Right Protection, Karnataka. She's an educationist interested in science and technology, a social activist, singer, writer, dramatist, and a sportswoman. She has worked in education institutions for more than 16 years and as principal of senior secondary for more than 7 years. She has been a curriculum developer, educational trainer for teachers and students, and holds a PhD in physics on sound healing using solfeggio frequencies. She also holds an MA degree. She was chosen as the best guide teacher of science in the year 2011 by Government of Karnataka in National Children's Science Congress. She was awarded the Best Principal Award from Rotary Trivandrum, Kerala, the Best Principal Kodava Samaj Kurg Award in Karnataka, the Best Educational Mentor Award by the Aryan Group of Institutions in Bangalore, and the Educational Excellence Award from Private Schools and Children Welfare Association, and many, many more awards from wonderful institutions. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It's our privilege to host you. We also have with us Mr. Sanjay Datta, who has been actively engaged in education for the past 2 decades as a teacher, trainer, curriculum developer, administrator, constantly striving to develop institutions into responsive ecosystems and providing the best-in-class services to the students, identifying and solving learning needs of the students, and developing models within the university and school education framework to optimize learning outcomes. This he has been doing along with his passion for teaching at university, post-graduation colleges, and NCRT amongst others. Presently, he utilizes his experience serving Maharana Mewar Public School and Maharana Mewar Vidya Mandir at Udaipur and shares his experiences as a speaker and advisor, collaborating with institutions within and outside the country. Sir, thank you so much for being here again. Wonderful to have you back. I will now start my video and stop the share so that we can see each other and we can start with the discussion. Once again, a very good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Mehta, if we can start with you first. My first question, in your school and in your experience, how important is it to have student office bearers in schools?
Good evening. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy for all these esteemed panelists are here today. I would like to share some of my things, what all we are doing in the school. So one is that importance, that when it comes to smooth and effective functioning of the school, in my opinion, it is possible only when all the stakeholders, that is management, teachers, students, and their parents work together by joining hands in a collaborative manner. So students being the one for whom all the actions are meant for can play a significant role if a student council is constituted and they become the office bearers. It is often said that children are the future citizens and even the policymakers. So being the office bearer at school level gives a nudge to their leadership qualities to come to the forefront and prepare themselves to handle the situations and responsibilities that will be entrusted to them. And another point, important reason for having students as the office bearer is that they get first-hand idea of how democracy functions. It also helps in maintaining the decorum to establish the rules and regulations and promote self-discipline. And as we all know that the best life lessons cannot be taught in the classrooms. As Mr. Philip had also said that they are learned only by hands-on experience and what all we call now experiential learning. So by being a part of policy making in the school, they learn to maintain a perfect balance between rights and responsibilities. So office bearers become a helping hand to know about the real issues related to students. So for example, like many a times we see that time management and even the teachers, they fail to find out the cases of bullying or the child passing through a rough phase. So such issues, I've seen that many a times they are brought in notice by the student council. And the first and foremost objective of this school education is the overall personality development of the students. So by becoming the part of student council, children develop good this communication skills and learn how to present themselves in front of their seniors, peers, and other representatives of the institutions. And they also learn to work as a team and manage it. And most importantly is the importance of accountability in every field of their lives. And these office bearers set role models to promote leadership for all the students by becoming ambassadors of the school, which is very important, that they are expected to maintain the discipline in the school and when they are represented outside the school. So this is very important for them. And of course, there might be vagrant cases where the members of the school council turn bossy towards the juniors and the peers. But that can be handled by the teachers through counseling and the casual dialogues. And here I would like to say that student as office bearer can bring tremendous positive changes in the functioning of the school. They become voice of the students to ensure that they have qualitative learning experience and enhance their skills. And we know that they try to maintain discipline in the class by giving responsibilities to class monitors, because student council, it consists of head boy, head girl, and in charges and prefects. So all these responsibilities are passed on to them. It can be both academic and non-academic areas. And they also take care of class health and safety facilities for the students' welfare. And they make positive contributions in relevant meetings which are conducted. And most important is communicate new ideas and concepts with terms in the best interest of the students, and they advocate appeals and complaints procedures. So these are few things which show importance of having student council in the schools. So that was it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, so the structure in your school is head boy, head girl. You have the house prefects and you have sectional in charges, right?
Yes.
In charges are for, culture in charge,
Yeah,
that kind
all
of functional?
clubs, all different clubs and sports and all, and they are in charges for that. Plus, then we have the prefects in the
Right.
schools.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Datta, sir, I'll come to you next. So you are part of a very interesting school. You have to deal with royalty. How do you choose kings amongst kings?
Princes among kings. Well, I think the trick lies in not getting trapped in those nomenclatures, because the idea is to be very, very open and progressive, and to ensure that students don't fall into the traps of getting any airs about them, because as we know that later in life these are the things that become. I remember Mr. Madhurao Scindia speaking to the Mewar boys one evening, and he said that we are being looked upon as the last bastions of snobbery. Now, I think that is what comes to my mind when I think about what we have been discussing, and the very fact that it has been institutionalized so well in the public school domain that there is a term for those who do not get elected to the Doon School Boys Council. So if you're not part of it, then I remember from the movie Broken Arrow, where he says that I don't know what's more worrying, the fact that we have a nuclear bomb that's missing, or the fact that there's a term for it. It happens so often, So those who don't get elected. So what we did back in 2008 was that when we realized that there is a certain element which would inevitably be left out, because no matter how democratic your processes are, there should be a way of getting them in. And as Barrett sir was saying, that normally the ones who are, not very obedient should be the ones who should be made responsible, because they know the ins and outs. But we devised a strategy, and it held me in very good stead. And it was something that came out of, the students themselves. I was talking to them. There were some who were very deserving. I knew they were deserving, but they did not exactly have the track record to hold it, because they would be looked upon as not the perfect role models. You cannot have exceptions becoming the norms. So I asked them, I said, look, what do we do with those who are, we know, deserving, but could not make to it? They said, sir, what did they do in the wild, wild west? They made them marshals. So I said, all right, so you would be marshals from now on, and you would be reporting directly to the principal. So that is how it originated. Actually, a system came into being, and it came out of a very organic growth. And it was nothing that we planned for exactly. But we got a crop of very, very versatile young boys and girls who were now not working, because you see, all systems, when you form them, basically work on the good offices of people that you have been working with, either it be your classmates or your teachers, fellow fellows nominating you. Now these are bright kids who are not very popular, but when they report to the principal, well, their good qualities can all be brought forth. So they became the ones who started organizing our annual events, because that required maximum resources which were out of the system. You needed to talk to the vendor, you needed to go and set up at a place, and they knew every nook and corner of the town, and they were the most resourceful because they knew exactly where what can be found at the 11th hour. So that has been an experiment that worked very, very well, and it provided the right answer to the problem that you cannot give everybody a post. Now that brings us to the question of why should we have the student council at all? And we take it for granted in a country like India that you have to teach them democracy and the democratic process, and how to work together in cooperation. What we do not realize is that while we take it for granted in this country, compare it when you compare with an erstwhile, let's say, a communist country, or maybe China today, or maybe one of the Middle East, where there is no democracy. Now, what kind of leadership traits would that particular ruler or that particular kind of head of party like to inculcate, but for party obedience or personal allegiance? So in India, we must understand that this is not something which is routine. It is something very unique to this country. Not that it's of course, our system very heavily borrows from the British system, about which I will talk a little later. But the very fact that you have an opportunity to have a democratic election in school, a voice, a vote, is itself a boon. And that should be, not taken very lightly. And we as a school should not try to exercise too much of control over who comes into office, because that way we ourselves would be diluting something that we are supposed to follow as adults. What we should instead do is let them learn the hard lessons. Let them learn the fact that you may think that you are very deserving, but for X or Y reason, I have had instances of students refusing to take the colors. Now, in all fairness, you try and talk to them, you try and tell them that while you were deserving, I understand it, but the process has rejected you. But that's it. So, coming to the, and as I speak to them, I said, look, if you think life is unfair to you, school is unfair to you, then you wait till you get to your office. Rather, you get to your college or your PhD boss, you'll know that life was much fairer in school. And then if you think you are still not being treated fairly, wait till you get a boss. And if you still think boss is not fair, then wait till you get married. So the idea is that, these kids have to understand that, well, I agree, everybody else agrees that you deserve, but you may not get elected. Now, what do you do after that is what decides your future. I was going through the list of the famous Etonians who made it big. And I realized that, you had Boris Johnson as part of what they call the POPs. Now, POP is a very elite, it is an uber elite society. You get self-nominated to it, first thing. But then there were two brothers, the elder one, Alexander, and the younger, David Cameron. And take your pick and guess who out of those two must have been a member of the POP and not the other one. Take a guess, come on.
I would say Alexander Cameron.
You know Boris Johnson was the PM.
Yeah,
you know that David Cameron was the PM.
Was the PM.
Alexander is the elder one.
Yeah.
David is the younger Cameron. Tell me which one must have been a member of the POP.
My guess would be Alexander Cameron. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask this question.
I would, yeah, exactly. It was a giveaway. But then the fun is that a POP is an elder brother who does not allow a younger one to get in, while the younger one goes on. And it is said that this is the very basis of their political rivalry till now. So you see, this is the importance. When you have these establishments, you are making characters. You are giving them an opportunity to exercise their will, test their popularity, their methods. Same is the case when it comes to royalty. It's no big deal. And I won't even ask you to guess it. I will say it for you that Prince William was a member of the POP while Harry was not. So these are systems which have been developed not only to promote, but also to pose a little bit of hardship and let you learn through failure very early in life. You may think that you are the pop, but you're not. Somebody for some other reason pips the post. So now when you come to today's circumstances, it was very easy for you to control what was happening in school. You had your electoral process, you had, a ballot, whatever. And then how the students functioned also was very much in your control. So you gave them an event, you said, all right, like I said, I gave them the annual day. Okay, this is your day, this is your final day. You failed to be a member of the council throughout, but you organize the whole thing. So, that kind of last minute opportunities before they get out of school. But today, when you look at it, the students are organizing inter-school. They are doing a fabulous job because now you need them. It is no more a question of them wanting to be a part of something. It is in a school, it's all right to ask them to organize 1 event, 2 events, 3 events and say, okay, our student council is in place. But then, students reporting on each other, solving cases, all that, all those are standard, expectations out of any such body. But now that Vista has become much more because the schools need these kids and they are organizing it much better than any faculty would. They are reaching out to the schools, they are making cohorts, they are making bodies which are now growing into professional bodies in times to come. And you need the student council to organize it completely for you. And you leave it to them. You leave the teaching to your teachers. So in changing times, when you need the students to be engaged in school, these bodies will become all the more important, because to keep the focus of students, to keep their interest going, to have a sense of belonging when last entire year they haven't set foot in the school, it is going to be a student body which is going to gel and bind everybody together and come out with things which would not only last now, but as an alumnus in the years and years to come. So my take on this, if I sum it up, is that in this country, we take it more of, we have to make a students council, make sure you get the right ones in. So that, there is no student body standing up to what you are saying. I think we should welcome it. We are lucky, we are in a democracy. We have this, we have this opportunity. Secondly, don't bother about who gets in there. Don't bother about how much of control you are exercising on it. Give them responsibility. Believe you me, students are much more resourceful. They have the ideas. They will solve half of your problems of, where to take your school in future. Because they live in future. They breathe that. They talk. They have their own lingo. They have their own suburban culture. They have their own underground culture. Bring it out. Let them bring it on to you. You will have less cases of teachers being harassed by students online. So with that, I would like to thank you for inviting me this evening. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being here and sharing. Just one thing, sir, what is the structure of the student body that you have? You have a head boy?
Yeah, we have a head boy and a head girl and the prefects and all the clubs and their in charges. So
and you have a separate set of marshals.
But yeah, marshals is something that is over and above all this, which only comes into force like a Western.
All right.
So it is a body where you have also used what you could not absorb. I mean, usually you will have the best debater, best poetry writer as a literary secretary. You would have the best sportsman as the sports captain, right? Yeah. Then you can have a deputy captain. So we have heads, then we have deputies. And the system of election itself is pretty democratic that way, that they choose their own body. So we don't interfere because they will not work with each other unless they gel well. So it's only when you find that, okay, the system has not been able to have X amount, then you have the marshals who are appointed. And believe you me, they are excellent at discipline duties.
Wonderful. What you said about the people organizing events really sticks to me. This is an interesting situation that happened in my B school. This is much later. Obviously, I'm talking about people who are 25 plus. We had Cadbury's coming on campus for recruitment. And unlike other companies, Cadbury's refused to tell us the criteria for shortlisting students. They said, we'll come to campus and tell you. What happened is the gentleman who was the national head of supply chain at Cadbury, who was coming for recruiting, was an alumnus of our B school. He walks in, he sits down and says, send me Logcom. Logcom is logistics committee who run the logistics of all the college events.
Yeah.
So he says, just send me Logicom. He says, I don't want marks. I don't want any background study. Just send me Logicom, guys. I'll know what to do. And he actually picked up 3 of the logis. So this particular skill of being able to manage events is something that really helps students a long way. Dr. D'Souza, thank you so much for patiently waiting. We tend to get carried away a little. Ma'am, in your opinion, the importance of a student office bearer and what is the structure in your school?
At the outset, I just want to say good evening to everyone here. And I'm also grateful to Notebook, whose aim is to deliver quality education through all your endeavors. You have given me this opportunity, so I would like to thank you to participate in this panel discussion and gain knowledge from galaxy of intellectuals and share my few experiences and views with you all about the school student office bearers. Student council, union, or associated student body, these are the different names that we call, is a curricular or extracurricular activity for students or co-curricular within elementary and secondary school all over the world. But it is extended to senior secondary and colleges too. Its aim is to encourage students in learning about democracy and leadership as originally espoused by John Dewey in Democracy and Education in 1917. He told this definition. In India, student council have been introduced almost all private and public schools. Here we have election and selection. Selection is done after interviews and written exams sometimes both. We consider both. Why we should have, what is the importance of having student office bearers? All students have unique qualities of heart and mind, especially some students are very good in their leadership qualities. That is like very outgoing. Their goal is to serve. So here I am speaking a little differently about serving attitude in children. Mostly we have a dominant attitude of a leader. Leadership means he should be above. We go in a triangular leadership, the structure, triangle, with the head boy, then the head boy or the girl, then the structure, then other students and so on. But I propose a circle where all the students serve each other, because we don't consider somebody above the other, and we nurture leadership qualities in all. I tried this in my schools and it works well. Mostly our understanding of leadership is focusing on the thriving of a particular school, organization, company, etc. But a serving student leader puts his or her companions first, shares responsibilities and helps develop and perform as highly as possible. The atmosphere of school will be healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely to serve each other in their needs. It doesn't become a dominant, no groupism. I mean, it needs a lot of practical and experimental things to do. It doesn't come. In the beginning, I was also of that opinion that what we have, that triangular. Then I went to this circular structure of leadership in the students. For every head boy or girl and their council members, there are hundreds who don't become one. I mean, the only one boy or girl is selected. It's not fair process naturally, but if you inculcate the values of serving each other in our students, they will grow as beautiful humanitarian value-based leaders. I think that is what is needed, and that is the need of the time now, because the values are very important in a leader. So how can school help in developing leadership qualities? School is one of the most important place for us to create this conducive atmosphere for all our students to bring an attitudinal change, to boost their confidence, to expose them to happenings around them, heightening their sense of belonging. This is very important. I'm just going in a little bit of heart level. Head level is important, intelligently, but with a kind heart. The serving student take initiative, propose ideas to the management and implement them. They help in implementing. They don't have that selfish ideas or ideologies. For some students, the experience may nurture dreams of becoming good politician in later, as all of you were speaking. Companies, that also you spoke, companies while recruiting value the student such with the such experience as a student council member. You said just now the example. So how the school student council help the school? The students whom we elect or select help in better performing the in the better performance of the school, simplify and streamline all the tasks, help in better communication between the student, teacher, principal, management, because the peer group feels free to express their views with their companions. Easy access to students to represent their ideas, managing many activities through them, curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular. If we don't elect, this is very important, if we don't elect or select serving leaders, what happens? If you elect these type of leaders who they may overpower the teachers, principal, and the management, and form groups of peer interests and disturb the discipline and activities of the school, which will end up in chaos. So we should be a little bit prudent in the selection and election process. How to help the student council to perform well? This is also, I was just thinking, how can we help? Because that sometimes the students are raw. They do not know how to go about. They make mistakes. So someone should be in charge of them, as we do, a teacher or anyone whom you find leading these students in those values. Sometimes they themselves are not capable of leading, so such teachers should not be chosen as their leaders. Sometimes we make that mistake in the schools. So the whole this goes away. So evaluate their activities, give ongoing training. This is very important. Sometimes we think they are okay, they will do well, and we don't give them training. We should give them ongoing orientation and training on leadership skills time to time. Thirdly, evaluate their activities once in a week or fortnight with the teacher, with the principal, however suitable. And fourthly, encourage them with words of appreciation and incentives. Give them, when they do something good, give them incentives also, because they are doing something extra to the school. So recognize them, their services to help you. So I think this is very important. These serving leaders will become better future leaders. Even if they become politicians, they will work with intelligence and with a kind heart. I think we should prepare such leaders, and each student should be a leader in our school. So we need to give them, you were asking all the panelists, how do you manage the school leadership? Together with this student cabinet or the council, we have the houses, we have the clubs. Also in the classrooms, we give leadership, class leaders, and in the class again, group leaders. We change the leaders in rotation. So each student, we should train for leadership in the school, because when they go out of our school, they should be leaders to themselves, to their neighborhood, and to the nation. So thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Excuse me. Dr. Mehta, I'll come to you next. Sanjay sir already spoke about this. I'm just trying to figure out, what do you do with those students which do not get selected, right? That's the bigger number.
Yeah, right. I think being head boy or head girl is about having the trust of the students to organize and represent them with honesty and enthusiasm. So head boy or head girl, they become the role model and the leaders. So they should be the one who demonstrates a commitment to the school, has the excellent behavior, attendance and punctuality, which is very, very important these days. And these, according to me, are some of the points for becoming one which we find not in all. And it's true that there can be many other deserving candidates who might possess most of the qualities mentioned by us all. But being a citizen of world's biggest democracy, we must understand that there can be only one leader, and few others, they can become subordinates, like they have become prefects or in charges. We have given them other responsibilities. And the council also includes, like what I said just now, class prefects and in charges of different clubs and sports as well. They become different captains, and editors are very important, and they play a very active role in day-to-day working of the school. And I think in every school, due care is taken to give some responsibility to the deserving students. It's not that it's only head boy, head girl, but there are other students also. We give responsibilities to many of them, and everyone does not become head boy, as all do not possess the qualities of what we say leadership or working well in the team. Maybe the time management, they have to take care of the time management, and they have to have organizational skills. And the most important is ability to talk confidently, which everyone feels shy about it, and appropriately to parents and students and to the staff and people, those who are coming from outside. Because whenever people come, some visitors are coming, these are the ones, those who are taking them around and showing them the schools and all. So they have to have that confidence and know the details about the school, because you know that there at times there are some gaps which are left, which even if some of them become the head boy, head girl, but they are not so confident and they don't know mainly the motto or the mission of the school. So all these things, it is very important, and that politeness is important, maturity is important, and to have good communication skills. And most importantly, the head boy, head girl, those who are selected from the highest grade of the school, you know, from class 12th only we are selecting. So the number which is there, they also come forward. Those who are coming forward and they want to get selected, we have to see there are some procedure, what all we have to see. Everyone cannot become, like I told you. And sometimes it is observed that being young, they're not able to handle the power in the mature manner. And these things can be foreseen by the teacher and management. That's why some are very confident students and some are not. So they are not selected as head boy, head girl. So this is what I wanted to say in this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sanjay sir, since you already spoke about what you do with students who are not typically part of the council, what I'm understanding is most schools select their council, so to say, from the passing out grade or just the grade below. So I'm guessing they'll start somewhere in their 11th and finish off somewhere in the middle of 12th. Have you, sir, ever had a case where the parent comes up and says, I don't want my child to waste time doing this? Because that's one of the questions that we got on the panel.
Shubhayu, it is a malady of the day that after class 10, students in the name of preparation for entrance examinations have started shying away from schools. And it seems that every minute of their lives are so busy that they find this to be an hindrance to their academics. So while in my first part, I said that at the end of the first part, I said that, you know, you need people to be engaged with the school. That need comes from that fact, because there was a time when there was a fight between students to be a member of the students' council, or somebody to be a head boy or a head girl or whatever. And from grade 11, when you pick them up, or we had a system of grouping them through 6th, 7th, and 8th as well. But then, you know, you found that after 10th, suddenly you found that those who were the best and those who are actually you thought to be the most deserving ones could not be picked up because they were just not willing. They just, they shied away. They didn't spend enough time in school. They just didn't want to give any time after school. So those kind of engagement problems certainly do come. And you have not only the parents, it's a fight every year. You have not only the parents, the students also declining to even fill up nominations. But that is something that came in between for a while. And when people realize the kind of, because you see at the end of the time when your LORs are to be written, and when you need an admission to a college, what you have done certainly counts. And especially in this pandemic and times like these, when colleges are going to look even further down, they're not only going to look at your class 12th result or 10, 11, they're going to look at what you have done in 9th, what you've done in 10th. Then in addition to your academics, they will definitely be looking at how you have contributed to the school, or how have you participated, and what are the qualities that you have exhibited. Because the criteria for selection for a college is no more just your class 12th mark sheet. There are colleges which are very openly saying that we don't bother what marks you get. We want to see how you will do justice to our course. There are interviews to colleges being held where they give you an exercise through the day, and throughout the day you get certain inputs of problem solving, and how you deal with it, it decides whether you get admitted irrespective of your marks. Somebody having more marks could be left out. So for a student, we have been counseling them into this, that look, your academics has always been important. It would always be at the top of your priority list, but understand that what you do and exhibit here is something that will count and go a very, very long way. And once you lose this opportunity, you will never get back to coming back to school and, say, okay, sir, I want to get my stage fright out now. You can't, you missed the bus. It's gone. So this is the time, this is the microcosm in which you are, living, breathing. Everything you do at this stage is the highest, the best, the biggest that you can do till that point in time of your life. So make use of it. And I think that has kind of, made an impact on kids, and they have understood and realized the importance. And our head boys and head girls are something that, of course, that is something very, very hotly contested. And we have to most of the time cool it down. We have to tell them, well, look, there'll be more opportunities in life later on.
Wonderful, sir. Dr. D'Souza, is it a similar situation at your end where you've had parents or students opposing a position?
I didn't have in my school, but my personal experience from my college days, I was studying in St. Agnes College in Mangalore. So one of the students, my classmate in third year, because it's a famous college of 3,000 girls, women's college, there was a lot of competition for the president and vice president and for the college council. But there was a girl, still I remember her name, Sharil Arana, who was very good in her, very good in her studies and all other activities. She was a good singer and dancer, dramatist. I don't know, I think she came from another planet. And very, very humble and very nice girl, very good in her study. She will never attend a class in mathematics, but she will score 100 out of 100. And her parents were ambitious that she should become someone great. She wanted to become, actually after her 12th, she wanted to have medical. Her father, who was a coffee planter, told her that, no, you should not be a doctor. You will work under someone. So you should become a manager of doctors. You should work higher than that. I want to see you that. But her dream was always to become a doctor. So in the class also, she used to not show interest, but born leader, a kind of born leader, very good nature. Her father didn't allow her to participate in the contest in the election. So there were 10 more girls contesting. If Sharil contested, there is no nominee for that. She will be anonymously chosen. Since she said she will not, because of her father's that she will not study, because it was a big news at that time. So I would like to share this, but still she was nominated by the students, I mean elected anonymously, she stood for vice president because she deserves that, but she was not able due to the parents' pressure, and without her father's knowledge, she contested for vice president. So I always remember that, but in my school, I don't allow this to happen. I orient them well, even in 12th standard, I orient them well regarding leadership. So it is not for domination, not for showing off. It is for service. So when you give this type of um, um, what to say feedback to the children, they come forward and you recognize them for what they do. That is very important. I told you that, no? Sometimes they do all the things, then at the end you scold them for some small things. So they feel, why should we spoil our peace of mind? And after doing all these things, we have no appreciation. So if they do some mistakes, personally call them and correct them. Uh, so as a teacher, I have seen my principals doing this, that sometimes they correct one of the council member in front of the assembly or something. So they get hurt. Then the other students will not be ready to take up. See, it is all are not born like leaders, not most of them. Okay, so I think we need to train them. We should orient them again and again for this type of leadership. So recognize that leadership. If a child picks up a bit of paper, that person is a leader. If you think logically, if you think a person, one who speaks, one who this one, that one, no, that is needed. But at the same time, a type of sensitivity, that is what I inculcate in children. I think that becomes more fruitful, not successful, but more fruitful, and parents and the student themselves appreciate this. Most of the time we go for this type of, we see some other school doing that, so we want to do that. I also had in my school, if you can open the internet, we had horse, very grand ceremonial thing happening during this one, no? Horse riding and this and that, a lot of activities during our investiture program. That is needed, but at the same time, don't miss this out. This service orientedness, this humility, this love for each other, that we should not miss in the children. Most of the time we see this outward behavior which they show off. Showing off is something else, but what comes from the heart is different. So we should recognize, as we are also leaders in a school, as principals or as teachers, we should recognize that quality in these children. So those will be more helpful for you in your management than the other.
Wonderful, ma'am. I think this has been the journey in corporate as well.
Yes.
Leaders at the Madison Avenue level used to be these slick, brash, abrasive, extremely aggressive people. But today, leadership is looked at as understanding, empathetic, somebody who kind of feels the pain of the people that he leads. Thank you so much.
We also should think, as we are all school leaders, how we want our students to remember us, how we want our outgoing students, whenever they should recognize us, not as taskmasters and those type of, we did some kind of partiality towards them. No, encourage everyone. Sometimes what happens, we go with the smartness of their looks or their this one, but we lose really who is talented. No? So I think those type of things, as a leaders, we should be sensitive and choose such people. So you have less problem. You have less problem. If they are not willing, allow them to be that. Don't force them in your cabinet, because they will not work for you. So take those who are willing. So someone has written in the comment question answer also that self-nomination. So some are nominating themselves. So they are already willing, take them and make them good leaders, because he is already willing and he will study and he will do this work also, because already he has interest to do this work. So I think self-nomination, then take them to other level will be good, according to me.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that. We are almost out of time, so I would wrap this up unless any of you have anything that you would want to discuss, I will invite Achin for the vote of thanks. Once again, thank you so much for making the time for this
Thank you
discussion.
also for this
No,
good
ma'am, it's an
sharing.
absolute privilege for us. Achin, you have quite a bit to thank for, so over to you.
I think really wonderful session we had, and I thank our members of our esteemed panel for their time here today. Barrett sir, thank you as always for giving us a great start and for sharing some wonderful examples which really set the tone for the evening. Thank you indeed, sir. Sanjay sir, I'm really thankful to you for your time. Indeed, whenever you have graced the platform, I must say that we have been enriched with your experience. I think some great points you mentioned, and especially when you were discussing about Harrow and Eton. So this is very interesting, one thing, and not only for this session, but in general. Harrow having produced 7 British Prime Ministers, if I'm not wrong, including Mr. Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
And also first Prime Minister of independent India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And Eton, I think 20 British Prime Ministers.
Yeah.
So when we discuss about 20 British Prime Ministers coming from one school, and also I think Prime Minister of Thailand. So we can imagine the kind of impact an institution can have, in the banks of Thames. And what's most interesting, the other day I was reading that in terms of academic grades, it's not that always Thames, Eton has done exceedingly well. Nothing like that. And neither it's the most expensive school in Britain. But I think one thing that has really stood out, because if you see that what has been behind success, I'm sure that there are a lot of factors, with each factor contributing in its own way. But one thing, I think I was reading about the culture of dissent and the fact that it is actively encouraged. I think debate, discourse, dissent, these are essential pillars of any vibrant democracy. So encouraging children to actively voice their opinion, to coming up with their own rationale, whether right or wrong, that's a different part of the story. But the fact that we are encouraging them as adults to come up, to have an independent thought process of their own, I think that is really wonderful, which makes institution like Eton really, really great, undoubtedly. And thank you, sir, for sharing that, and also for sharing your example with regard to what late Madhura Sindhya said. I think thanks for enriching the forum, indeed. Dr. D'Souza, I first of all, we really thank you for your time. And ma'am, indeed at Notebook, we consider it our pleasure and privilege when esteemed educators like you come and grace the forum. I think, ma'am, a few important points you made, which I completely agree with. The concept of preparing a circle, you had a very different thought process with regard to the fact that each one needs to be empowered, because indeed, so. And I think at different stages of life, every person will need to lead. Maybe at even taking charge for one's family. I think that also is leadership, right? Taking responsibility, taking decisions. So I think, ma'am, you made a very, very valid point. So, and also being leaders for themselves, for the communities that they come from, for the nation. And also the last point, I think, which you made is really very thought-provoking. And I'm sure esteemed educators in this forum will completely agree with you. Because I'm sure all of us can connect to this when you said that how do we want our students to remember us when they really step out of the campus? I think that is very important. Be it in terms of fairness, be it in terms of nurturing talent, be in terms of encouraging them, be in terms of always lending a helping hand. And I'm sure our esteemed educators here in this forum are actively doing this. But really, ma'am, thank you so much for bringing this forward. Dr. Mehta, again, ma'am, I think first of all, ma'am, thank you for your time and for gracing the platform. I think one thing I really like the fact, because what I again encourage and what we really in Notebook look forward to, in these forums, is that each one of you having your own unique thought process, which really enriches the forum. And I think, ma'am, you were very candid when you said that there can be only one leader. It may be a different thought process, but I appreciate the fact that you are completely transparent in terms of bringing forward your views. And I think, ma'am, you also summed it up very beautifully when you said that different roles need to be encouraged. be in terms of leading various clubs, sports captain, editors playing a very important active role. Or I think which is very, very true and correct in terms of encouraging, as we were discussing about what's happening around the world. And the trend that we have been seeing, especially in some countries like US, that responsibility is being decentralized. So I think, thank you so much. I also thank members of the esteemed audience for their time here today. I'm sure all of us go back enriched. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.